Hey, what's going on, everybody? Boilon here and back for another video on Marvel Strike Force. In today's video, we are going to be talking more about the Age of Xavier, the Age of X, because there was a blog post talking more in detail about what this actually is. I want to cover that, but I also want to go through a little bit of speculation based on what we know right now with the Spider Society and how that is basically starting the Age of X and what that means for all of this, and potentially some speculation and possible character discussion of what we might see in the future. So if you're ready to go, everybody, let's boil this down. All right, so this blog came out, I think, late last night, and it's talking about, more clarification basically about the Age of X and Professor Xavier. What are ages? So TLDR, they're basically using ages as a way to signify, that we're entering a new story period as well as a new character release, which is why this patch cycle is labeled patch 8.0 to denote that we're in the Age of X. So we have the new showcase storyline starting with the Spider Society is going to include storylines of Age of X and relevant to Age of X. And then we have what's going to culminate into, which I guess they're going to talk about it down here, which is the release of Dark Dimension 8. So, yes, Professor Xavier is going to be the final unlock for Dark Dimension 8, which is expected in sometime in 2025. Right. And so probably about a year on, most likely is going to be gear tier 20. And so how is this different than Mephisto in Dark Dimension 7, you might ask? Well, I don't know if it's actually mentioned too much here, but it does say the age will connect all the parts of the game you already know and play. Narrative events will lead one into the next, and major character releases like our legendary characters and feature teams will be connected to Xavier thematically. So I think basically what they said is that the first two legendary characters that are going to be coming out, the next one, which is going to be, I think it's someone from Mercs for Money, and whatever's after that is going to have some sort of lore tie-in to Xavier, whether he is X-Men related, or that's why people are suggesting like it's Old Man Logan because he has ties to Xavier. Not necessarily that version is an X-Men necessarily. And how these characters and teams are going to tie into this Dark Dimension 8. And I think they mentioned it down below here. Actually, we have this new special event campaign that's going to be coming up pretty soon called the Age of X, the Age of X event campaign. So that does not have any requirements, which is an event for all players of all levels. And that should be interesting anyways. And then I thought that it said something down here, he's gonna be a plug and play character. We kind of already knew that a little bit. I thought, okay, so what we have, I think what we know, and I'm hoping that I don't say anything that I'm not supposed to because I don't think that's the case. But anyways, that Dark Dimension 8 is going to be a wider umbrella. The requirements are going to be different than what they have been in the past. It hasn't been officially confirmed, but they said how they wanted to learn from Apocalypse, how they didn't want to prescribe the characters too much. And so to me, that suggests that it's going to be, they would have said it, right? If I think they would have largely said it. If it was just going to be a rehash of Dark Dimension 7 with global, cosmic, city, legendary, mythic, and whatever, they would have just come out and said it at this point. So I think there's going to be some changes, and I think it's going to be that you're going to want to use some of these newer characters coming from Spider Society onwards, but I don't think it's going to be as prescriptive as City, right? I think it's going to be broader tags, because if you guys had gone through the kits, that the video where I went through the kits of Spider Society, there's actually a lot of call outs for Hero Spider-Verse. So my thoughts is that, instead of those lanes, right, that we might end up having, it's slightly broader, right? If we include the new characters, let's just, for shits and giggles here, Hero Spider-Verse, for example. Spider-Verse itself has so many, so I think it's too broad. But right now in the game, we have 14 Hero Spider-Verse, and then we're going to have 3 more with the Spider Society, with Penny Parker, Peter B. Parker, and Pavitra. So that's a lot of characters. And so let's say hypothetically, right? Instead of City or whatever, it's Hero Spider-Verse. Then you have a choice of 17 characters or whatever I just said. Yeah, it would be 17 with the new characters, maybe more by the time Xavier's actually out, right? And so obviously a lot of these are trash. Like, you're not going to take, unless they get reworks, you're not going to be taking like any of these on these bottom row, even Scarlet Spider. So you're not Agent Venom anymore, right? Or probably not 2099. But so it's an illusion of choice in some regard. You're going to have the 3 Spider Society characters. You're going to Ghost Spider, Noir, Spider Weaver, Gwenom. Those are probably going to, maybe Spider-Man big time. Like these will be your heavy options for that, hypothetically, if it was Hero Spider-Verse. But I think that is still a little bit better than what Apocalypse was, right? In my opinion, it's not saying here you have to fully max out all of Spider Society or all of Mercs for Money or whatever team, the legendary teams. Like, you don't have to do that. And I think the biggest problem that people had with it was that, and I'm pretty sure I said it this way in one of my other videos, was that you would see, especially in PvP, everyone would have the exact same teams built up to Gear Tier 17, 16, 17, 18, or mostly 17, Darkhold, Gamma, Death Seed, Unlimited X-Span, and all those characters, because you had to do it, right? And so there was no variation. And so at least if they do it in this fashion, I'm not saying this is how it's going to be. I'm just saying that if they decide to do something outside of the traditional Dark Dimension lanes, and you might wonder why would they do that at this point. They've done it since Dark Dimension 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. They've actually had it. Maybe they just want to do something different, right? And so they want to find a way to include these new characters from this new Age of X, but still allow you the wiggle room that you're not forced to build the entire team, right? When it comes to like a Scarlet Witch or a Phantom X from that team, and you really don't want to gear them into Gear 19 or 20 for red gear, well, good news is that, if this is the case, then you don't actually have to do that, which is, I think, the biggest problem that some people had when it came to the Apocalypse grind, was that they didn't want to do things like that, which was kind of stupid. And I agree, because not only were some of them very expensive, like Scarlet Witch and She-Hulk, but you didn't really need to gear them to 17. Like, it just didn't make a big difference to the team overall, because they were kind of sucky. So not every character is going to be the best on even newer teams, and I hope that we're not locked into having to do that. So for the second half of the video, I want to talk about what other umbrella tags could there be. Just let's do some hypotheticals here, just because I think it would be fun to really also, it might give us a bird's eye view in terms of what might come down the road. In terms of tags, I want to look at probably tags that have like anywhere from 10 to 20 characters. I'm not sure, because we're gonna start off in the A's, right, and then we're gonna get into a few that are pretty big, and I'm not sure if that's necessarily gonna happen. But let's talk about Asgardian, right? Because this is, I would say, in the realm of numbers where, it would be similar to Hero Spider-Verse. They love their Asgardians, right? Recently, we had the Bifrost team. Vol is an OG character. I highly suspect once Bifrost goes out the window that they're going to rework Vol into another team. They did that with Kestrel, with Pegasus. They may, in fact, be getting ready to do that for Deathpool with Mercs for Money. It's speculation at this point. We don't know. Hopefully, we'll know in a couple of weeks. But they do love their OG characters and keeping them alive. And so I don't know if they're going to be coming out with another Asgardian Mystic Ray team, but some people have speculated that, well, we could be getting this year anyways, characters like Odin, characters like Enchantress, other Asgardian adjacent and related characters. The Warriors 3, or there's plenty to choose from that have some sort of relation to Asgard. There's lots. Right, whether they're mystic or not, I don't know. Maybe we get Oriental Hela, White Hela from What If Season 2. That was a really cool model. And so that could be something for Age of X as well. Maybe we would just see an Asgardian lane in Dark Dimension 8. Obviously, at this point in time, unless some of these get reworked, hey, Captain America has seen so many reworks that I would not be surprised if Thor would see another one. He saw one with Wave 1, and then Hero Asgardians, and then I would not be surprised if they pulled them out for another one. With Thor Infinity War, still have no idea if there's going to be like an Infinity War team sometime this year or something, because there was Iron Man Infinity War, and things like that. I don't know what their plans are for that. But, Asgardian could be on the table for a new team this year. and also possibly related to Dark Dimension 8 as well. The next tag, there's a lot here, right? Like if we just look at the broad umbrella of the Avengers tag, there's a lot of characters. This is probably as big as regular X-Men. And so whether or not they do this, it's a lot, right? Like we're getting close to like how many characters there are on like a cosmic lane. But you know, we had more recently, I guess you have Iron Man Infinity War from Pegasus, but also New Avengers would be the most recent one. I would not be surprised if they add another Avengers team. They seem to do this once a year. I'd have to bookmark that one, but I think that we've probably seen an Avengers team once a year. We had New Avengers, we had Secret Event. No, sorry, not Secret Avengers. We had Bionic Avengers, and then Secret Avengers before that. And so yeah, there's been quite a few different teams. I don't know if it's been every year, but almost, I would say at this point. So could it be an Avengers tag? Maybe. Other ones, I just want to see more broad tags, right? So we're going to be skipping a lot of these that probably aren't going to make sense. Brotherhood, probably not. Maybe they might do like a mutant villain. Because if we're talking Hero Spider-Verse, then it could be, you know, another tag with a villain variety. That could be really interesting. A lot of these are just individual teams, so they're probably not going to make a lot of sense here. Guardians, they missed the boat, I think, on this one for when Guardians 3 came out, and they didn't actually do what the trailer suggested, almost that there was going to be reworks to a lot of these characters. Cosmo came out, and he was in the trailer, and none of the other Nebula actually got the tag, which is interesting. But all the other, you know, they need some love. I'm going to say this again. Guardians of the Galaxy really need some love. I don't know if what they're going to do with that. If they added some new characters into this, they could, right? Like this could be something like an Age of X new team that's also a Guardians. I could see that happening. What else is there? Hydra. I think we skipped a bit, but I do want to. I think we're pretty much at Hydra. Now I realize that most of these are minions. So I don't know if this is going to be an Age of X team necessarily. It could be another team. I would love to see a reworked Baron Zemo and Red Skull together with something else. We might be saving Baron Zemo for a Taskmaster team. I also have 2 diamonds that I pulled for him randomly, but I would love to see, because we basically phased minions out. Red Skull needs a rework that's not associated with minions, because nobody's used by removing minions from the orbs. They've essentially said we're not doing anything with minions. And so I think that it's appropriate to do some sort of new Hydra team that includes Red Skull and Baron Zemo and some other new characters. I think that would make a lot of sense. Don't know if it'd be Age of X appropriate though, but or usable for that necessarily, but it is what it is. There, what else do we have? Infinity Watch, not really. In humans, I don't think there's enough. Like, I don't think that's enough to warrant something like a Dark Dimension lane or anything like that. They very well could do some Inhuman characters this year, but I'm not sure if that's really on the horizon. I don't really see that as something coming. You know, and when I think about Alpha Flight, because we know that's coming, right? I mean, I guess it's Alpha Flight and they're like hero mutants, probably. Actually, not even all of them are mutants. In fact, it's a bit of a mixed team. Nowhere Heist, Kree. I could see this happening, Age of X style, with something new. Also, just like I said about Red Skull, Ronan does need a rework pretty bad that removes him from the minions. So we have Ronan and Korath the Pursuer. We have Ultimus. Captain Marvel, maybe not, because she had a Force rework, and Phyla-Vell, hard to say, but could have Minerva, could have some of these, and then add some new Kree characters. There's plenty of Kree characters in the Marvel universe. Even like honestly, some hero ones as well that are also Kree, so they could easily do some combination Kree team. So that could be something on the horizon as well. I'm not super excited necessarily for that. Military. I'm not even gonna touch that one. New Warriors, Out of Time, Pegasus, Power Armor, Pimtech, Ravager, Rebirth, Sinister Six. You know, there's a lot. There's a lot there. What if they did another team that's not Sinister Six, that's not Superior Six, but they happen to have the overarching Sinister Six tag? I know that this happened really recently, but let's say it happens towards the end, right? Let's say it happens like early 2025, end of this year. Yeah, they could, right? I mean, like a year gap between them. Yeah, I don't see why not. right? And that'd be I love Sinister Six, so I would be very happy if there was a Dark Dimension 8 lane that said specifically Sinister Six. I actually hope that I can still carry a lot of these forward into Dark Dimension 7. So that would be a very good double dipping. And I think that's a lot of the problems that people are going to be thinking about is whether or not you can maximize upgrading characters that are DD7 usable, but also you think that might be into DD8 that we might need to use them for Xavier because, I'd like to double dip as much as possible, but obviously we don't know exactly what they're going to be, right? We don't know what these lanes will necessarily be. Maybe they will be the same as 7, but part of me just thinks they would have came out and said it if it was, and I don't know. Talking about how this is going to be different in terms of the less prescriptive, that to me suggests that, well, I don't know. Maybe I'm just thinking too hard. That's possible too. What else? Is there anything else that's maybe we already talked about Spider-Verse because that's Hero Spider-Verse. Villain, like I don't know where you would necessarily do villains, right? Like just looking at the broad scope of villains, like what kind of maybe it'd just be a villain lane. I mean, that could be interesting too, I suppose. But then you'd have like so many of the Dark Dimension characters. It would have to be like non-legendary, if that's even a thing, maybe non-mythic villain characters. That could be a thing too. But if you look at like other tags that kind of bridge them together, there's not a lot. Probably mutant would be the other one. Mutant villain. That might be a thing, and then therefore you could still use Apocalypse, something like that. But yeah, I just wanted to go through this because I think that if we think about like 4, let's say it's Avengers. Oh, I forgot about X-Men actually. How many X-Men are there right now? 21. That could be a thing still, right? Like I don't know how many more X-Men that they're going to add to the tag. Probably one more X-Men team, and then maybe some reworks. I would love to see some reworks to characters like Storm, please. OG X-Men characters that really deserve it. Maybe Iceman as well, because Iceman got skipped over on some of these reworks. And Beast, Iceman, and Storm are highly deserving of some reworks. And I also wouldn't be surprised if Wolverine, or New Wolverine, I guess, in this instance, comes to the game. So those are my thoughts. So let's just say, hypothetically, if we had 4 lanes, let's assume that they might keep something like Mythic or whatever, just to maintain that. But let's say as Guardians, Avengers, X-Men, Hero Spider-Verse, maybe there might be a villain mutants, something like that. Maybe not if there's also X-Men, because they wouldn't want to double up on mutants. But maybe just villains, right? Because there's actually not that many villains. It was always a weird lane. Actually, I know there are heavy hitters in there, but it was always a bit awkward. So if maybe the non-mythic villains, I guess they could do that. But let me know in the comments down below what you think. What do you think about this announcement? Is it too early? Again, my biggest concern is now that I know this, getaway offer. Now that I know what's upcoming, I'm going to want to, and I know Dark Dimension 7 is a long time away for me as well, but I want to make sure that I can get my best value where possible for both, which is weird, right? Like I don't want to have to gear characters to 19 and then find out I have to gear completely separate characters to 19 and 20 or something like that, right? Like I'd rather be able to like bang for your, double dip. That's what I would like to do. So I don't know if that's going to happen, but we'll have to find out. I guess we'll hear more probably in the weeks and months ahead. And, as it comes out, I'll be sure to cover it. So that's going to be the end of this one. And until next time, stay safe and healthy. Also, happy anniversary, right? Today is the day. And maybe I'll cover this later on when it hits. The inbox that we're supposed to get for this big gift for the 6th anniversary. I forgot to mention this. I should have said in the beginning. I forgot. But otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video.